Alright, so today we're just reviewing for the test that you guys are going to have on Friday. The test covers everything from the first note packet, so everything from since the beginning of the year. The first type of question that we're going to go over here is how to add integers on the number line. So when you're looking at a model like this, a couple things that you need to know are first that you need to start at 0. You go right for positive numbers, and you go left for negative numbers. So this one says, which numerical expression is represented by the number line shown? So I'm going to start at 0. Because this arrow is going to the right, I know that this is a positive number, and it's 9 spaces, so that's going to be a positive 9. Now this arrow picks up where that one left off, and this one is moving to the left, so I know that I'm going to be adding a negative number. And if I just count how many spaces long the arrow is, it's 13. So this model is representing 9 plus negative 13, which would be choice C. When we're actually adding integers, one thing that you have to keep in mind, anytime that you add a number and its opposite, you're going to get 0. Alright, so you'll see questions like this on your test that use that idea. So the first one here says the initial balance of a savings account was $0. After which transactions will the balance of the savings account be the same as the initial balance? So we just want to know, in which of these situations are you going to end up with 0? Which one is talking about adding a number and its opposite? So I go through the answer choices, and I can see that choice B, a deposit, that would be adding $278, followed by a withdrawal, which would be subtracting $278. These are opposites of each other, so if I add those together, I'm going to end up back at 0. So that would be choice B. Down here at the bottom, this question uses a similar idea. So it says, which expression can go in the blank to make the equation true? So I want to know which of these 4 could I plug in here so that this whole thing would add up to 0. So what I can do to solve this one is start by adding these two together. So I'm going to do negative 3.6 plus 2.9. That gives me negative 0.7. So I know that anytime I add a number and its opposite, I'm going to get 0. So the opposite of negative 0.7 would be positive 0.7. So I want to know which of these is going to add up to positive 0.7. So I'm just going to test these out on my calculator until I find the one that works. Alright, and that's going to be choice B, because if I do 9.2 plus negative 8.5, I get positive 0.7. Alright, so that would be choice B. Alright, the next thing we're talking about here is subtracting integers. And what you have to know about subtracting integers is that we always have to rewrite the problem as addition by doing keep, change, change. So all we're doing here is just practicing rewriting these questions as addition. So for example, in the first one, if I do negative 12 minus 4, I'm going to keep the negative 12, change subtraction to addition, and change 4 to negative 4. Alright, and then these are just a few more examples of that. So keep, change, change, keep, change, change, and keep, change, change. So on your test, you just need to be able to recognize the addition version after doing keep, change, change. Next question here is talking about the distance between numbers on the number line. So here, this is really just a gimme kind of question. You just need to count how many spaces between A and B. Alright, so that's going to give you choice D, 13 units. The next one here is the formula to find the distance between two integers. And we use the formula when either it tells us to or the numbers are too big or too far apart to be realistic to count on the number line. So here, it says use the absolute value to find the distance between negative 3 and 2. So step 1, I'm going to put negative 3 in for P and 2 for Q. So absolute value of negative 3 minus 2. And it doesn't matter which one is P and Q, you'll still get the same answer. Step 2, I'm going to rewrite this as addition. So I'm going to keep, change, change. So now I have absolute value of negative 3 plus absolute value of negative 2. Step 3 is to simplify, so that just means add these together. Okay, negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5, so now I have the absolute value of negative 5. And then my last step will be to actually take the absolute value. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So basically, I'm just going to turn this positive. It's 5 units away from 0, so my answer there is 5. The next question uses this same idea. So it says, Sonia has a balance of negative $14 in her bank account. After getting paid, her balance was $50. Which expression represents the increase in her balance? So I want to know, if I'm starting down here at negative 14 and I'm ending up here at 50, what is the distance between these two numbers? Alright, so I can use my formula to figure that out. So it would be absolute value of P minus Q. So if the first number is P, I would have the absolute value of negative 14 minus, and then the second number is Q. This is what I end up with, which is the same as choice D. Alright, these next questions right here are just practicing using the calculator. All you have to know about this one really is that this is a multiplication question. If there's no symbol in between, that's multiplication. So if you multiply all these on your calculator, you should get negative 30. Alright, this one over here, just type that in. You're using the ABC button anytime you have a fraction. That one should come out to negative 1. And then this one, what decimal is equivalent to 8/40? There's two ways you can do this. If you understand that a fraction just means division, you could type 8 divided by 40, and that'll give you 0.2. Or you can do 8/40 and then second PRB, and that will give you the same answer. Alright, down here we have some show your work questions. So on the test, these are questions where you don't get points just for writing the answer. You need to show your steps and your process of solving. You can still use your calculator to actually do the calculations. So for this one it says, explain the steps needed to determine the answer of the expression below. Be sure to include the answer. This is an order of operations question because we have more than one thing going on in the question. We have some division and we have some multiplication. Okay? Order of operations is PEMDAS, right? So parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division go together, and you do those from left to right. The same thing is true about addition and subtraction, left to right. So here, I have division and I have multiplication, so I'm going to do those from left to right, just like I'm reading a book. So my first step is going to be negative 8/9 divided by 4/12. If you type that into your calculator, you're going to get negative 2 2/3. My next step would be the multiplication. So now I'm going to do negative 2 2/3 times 1 1/8, and you'll get an answer of negative 3. Alright, so to explain this, I'm just going to put this into words. This is like your outline for writing an essay. Alright, so now I'm just going to put it into words. Let's say first, you would divide negative 8/9 divided by 4/12 and get negative 2 2/3. Then, now I'm just going to put my second step into words. Then you would multiply negative 2 2/3 times 1 1/8 and get negative 3. Alright, so that's a full credit explanation. First I did this and I got this answer, then I did this and I got this answer. The next question is really the same thing. I'm not going to go through this one, but I'll just point out right here, you have to understand that this is division. Okay? Fraction is just another way of writing division. So in this one, first you would do the division according to order of operations, and then you would do that addition part. Alright, the next question here, convert 4/11 to a decimal equivalent using long division. So the key here is using long division. So you're not going to get points just for writing down the answer. You need to show the long division process. So to turn a fraction into a decimal, we just divide. So if I picture taking this fraction and just tipping it over on its side, the 4 would end up inside and the 11 would end up on the outside. 11 can't go into 4, so I'm going to add a decimal and a 0 and bring the decimal up into my answer. Now I need to figure out how many times can 11 go into 40. Well, that'll go in 3 times, and 3 times 11 is 33. I subtract and I get 7. Every time you subtract, you then have to bring down. So I'm going to add a 0 and bring it down. 11 can go into 70 6 times, and 6 times 11 is 66. So now I'm going to subtract that and I get 4. Alright, now I can start to see that I have a pattern here, but I need to keep showing my steps of division until I've established that pattern. So I'm going to bring down another 0. 11 can go into 40 3 times, which we said was 33. Subtract, you get 7, and bring down a 0, and then 11 can go into 76 times. Now I've established that I have a repeating pattern, so 0.36, 36. So I'm going to go ahead and say my answer is 0.36 repeating. Next question. Kyra's monthly bank account statement showed the following deposits and withdrawals. So all of these negatives, those are withdrawals. That's money that she's taking out, that she's spending. And then these positive ones are the deposits. Those are getting added to her account. If Kyra's balance in the account was $57.91 at the beginning of the month, what was the account balance at the end of the month? So I'm going to start with that $57.91. There's multiple ways that you can do this. One way is, all right, I'm going to take care of the withdrawals first. So I'm going to do minus $15.20 minus $25.75 minus $10.40. If you type all of that into your calculator, you're going to end up with $6.56. All right, so that takes care of how much she had at the beginning and the money that she's spending. Now we need to add back the money that she's depositing. So now I'm going to do $6.56 plus $46.50 and plus $88.50. And then that takes care of those. If you add all that on your calculator, you're going to end up with $141.56 in the account. All right, and the last question. Janice works at a restaurant. Last week she spent 1 3/4 hours cleaning on each of the 7 days. She also spent 2 5/12 hours serving customers on 3 days last week. What was the total number of hours that Janice cleaned and served customers last week? So if I start with this first part with the cleaning, it says that she spent 1 3/4 hours cleaning on each of the 7 days. So I need to do 1 3/4 times 7, because she's doing it 7 times. Okay, if you multiply that on your calculator, you're going to get 12 1/4. So that's how much time she spent cleaning. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the serving customers. So she spent 2 5/12 hours on 3 days. So she did it 3 times. So times 3. If I do that on my calculator, I get 7 1/4. So that's how much time she spent serving. We want to know what's the total number of hours that Janice cleaned and served customers. So the actual total would be found by adding those two together. How much time did she spend cleaning plus how much time did she spend serving? And that's going to give us a total of 19 1/2 hours. If you flip to the next page there where it says practice questions, these are your practice questions for the test. They're just like the test questions, and the answers are at the bottom of page 8. So after you've done the practice questions, you can check on the bottom of page 8 and make sure that you've done them correctly.